Hello and welcome to this week's special edition of Politics Today. And in this programme today we have a former Minister of State for Artsakh, also known as Nagorno Karabagh, where he'll be talking how his nation, Armenia, is in peril. Artsakh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you joining us on Politics Today. And can I, on behalf of myself and our viewers, say that Armenia is a very special country. You are a special people. And we know that you are facing genocide at the hands of Azerbaijan, but also Turkey as well. And still today, over 110 years on, the Turkish government still hasn't recognized its role in the biggest genocide against Christians in history, which was the Armenian genocide during the First World War. But for our viewers, can you share something about your background growing up in the country of Artsakh, and for our viewers that is Nagorno Karabagh, and how sadly at the age of 6 you lost your eyesight because you picked up a landmine. Yet despite that crippling disability, you've excelled and reached the top echelons of politics in your native country, which is Artsakh.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's my honor and pleasure to be hosted here. Actually, Armenia is the first country adopting Christianity as national religion in 301, and Artsakh is a part of historic Armenia. And in 1921, when the Soviet rule started in the region, Stalin decided to annex us, I mean a part of Armenia, Artsakh or Nagorno Karabagh, to Soviet Azerbaijan without asking our will. And during the Soviet time, we had lots of persecution of Armenians. And in the end of Soviet time, 1988, our people in Artsakh and in Armenia together just started rallies demanding the Soviet central authorities in order to reunify Artsakh and Armenia. But the Soviet authorities didn't agree and didn't allow that. Azerbaijan started Armenian massacres in Azerbaijan, in Artsakh, and as a result of that, more than 500,000 Armenians fled Azerbaijan. And in Artsakh, we declared our independence based on our right to self-determination in 1991 as a result of the Soviet Union's collapse. And after that, Azerbaijan started a large-scale war aggression against our people because we were an enclave during that time, and they sieged us for more than 6-7 months. We were under siege and being bombarded fully. And I remember that more than 50% of our residential buildings were destroyed fully during that time. I was a child. And then with support of Armenia and Armenians worldwide, we could win the war, and we had a ceasefire in 1994. The international community, UN, OSCE, Council of Europe, recognized our right to self-determination, and we started peace talks with Azerbaijan. But Azerbaijan didn't agree on our right to self-determination, and in 2020 they started another aggression against our people, and we lost the majority of our lands. But we had Russian peacekeepers deployed after the war in November of 2020, and Azerbaijani forces killed more than 4,000 of our soldiers and civilian people. And we had lots of crimes, human rights violations, war crimes, crime against humanity in 2020 with support of Turkey. And by the way, thousands of ISIS mercenaries were also fighting against us in Azerbaijan. And they beheaded our people, executed our people, tortured, mutilated, and many, many horrible crimes they committed, and which were documented by myself as human rights defender or ombudsman of Artsakh, and many human rights organizations also documented those crimes, even cited to my reports: Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Freedom House, and leading media. And after that, we had Russian peacekeepers. In 2022, Russian peacekeepers, Azerbaijan started a blockade, just blocking the only road, which is called Lachin Corridor, connecting us, I mean Artsakh, with Armenia and outside world. And the Russian peacekeepers didn't intervene and stop the blockade, and gradually Azerbaijan stopped all kind of humanitarian access to our people and supplies. Even by a Red Cross and by Russian peacekeepers, we couldn't get anything, any food, any medicine, anything. And for a few months we were suffering, we were starving, there was no transportation, there was no gas supply, there was very limited electricity supply, no medicine, and people were dying because of starvation and because of lack of or shortage or absence of medicine. And as a result of that, though there were some international court orders, including International Court of Justice, European Court of Human Rights rulings during the blockade that Azerbaijan should lift the blockade, but they didn't lift that. They exacerbated the situation. And in September of 2023, Azerbaijan launched another aggression against our people, genocidal aggression, and within one day they killed more than 220 people, and our people was in a panic because there was nobody protecting us, only our army was defending. But we had serious disbalance of military power, and we surrendered. And just after that, in a few days, they opened the Lachin Corridor and pushed our people outside of our country. And we fled 120,000 people, Christian Armenians, under psychological terror, under war crimes, many, many problems, and suffering of 9 months of blockade. We fled our ancient homeland. For more than 3,000 years, we were living there. And now we are not there. We were 120,000, and there is almost zero Armenian in this land.
And what's so tragic about this is the kind of media silence, the lack of international condemnation. But you served as a Minister of State. You advised the government there in Artsakh, Nagorno Karabagh. You were a Minister of State for Nagorno Karabagh. But before we discuss the conflict and also the need for Armenia to get justice and the condemnation rightly on Azerbaijan and Turkey, share with us what your life was like growing up in Artsakh, and what made you so passionate that you wanted to be a political leader to serve your people in Artsakh, the Armenian people?
Actually, I was born in 1988, the year of Artsakh movement, the movement for reunification of Artsakh and Armenia. And I remember very limited number of incidents or moments during the 1990s war. My father was killed during the war and he was a soldier. and he was killed by Azerbaijani forces when I was 4 years old. Oof. But I remember my father, and I am proud of my father. And after the ceasefire in 1995, when I was 6, I lost my eyesight fully as a result of Azerbaijani landmine explosion. And then my mother took me to Yerevan, capital city of Armenia, for special education for blind children. And I got good education there, living also during the vacations in Artsakh, in my homeland. And I lost my mother as a result of heart attack when I was 16. She died. But my mother helped me a lot, and she was a great believer. And every Sunday she was attending church, she was praying to the God and helping me and my brothers. But after her death, we were alone. But I decided to get good education. I started political science bachelor degree in Armenia, and then did my master's here in London at University College London in politics, security and integration. And then I studied also at Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy of Tufts University, Boston. It's one of the leading law and diplomacy schools. And I returned in my homeland, though I could stay here or in the US, but I decided that I have a mission. I have a mission to serve to my people, to serve to human rights, and to serve to peace. And I am by now great believer in peace, in human rights everywhere. Though I suffered and my family suffered a lot as a result of the conflict, as a result of the Azerbaijani crimes, etc., persecutions, but I don't hate anyone. And I believe that with love, it's possible to change the world. And I served there for 11 years in different positions, including human rights defender or ombudsman elected by the parliament, and then state minister as the second government official after the president, and I was coordinating the activities of humanitarian ministries in 2021, 2022, just after the tragic, devastating war. And I helped people a lot, and I thought that I am doing good job for people. In order to change the world, in order to help my people, and in order to serve to human rights. But we had that blockade, and we had the forcible displacement and exodus of our people. And now I'm independent human rights defender. Though I'm blind, but I think my blindness helped me to have vision. Though I don't have physical vision, but I have that spiritual vision to serve to people everywhere. And I think that it's possible to have peaceful life, human rights friendly life everywhere. And I think that we should reach justice against all kind of evils and against all kind of, crimes, persecutions, etc. And I believe that my blindness or physical limitations help me to overcome many obstacles, to understand that it doesn't matter whether you have problems or not. It matters if you have vision spiritually, if you have that mission and the feeling of your service to people. And I think in this situation, also as a human rights defender, I can do something, very small things, to contribute to the values that I am believing, to the Christian values, to the love and to the peace everywhere.
Yeah. And Artak, just explain to us, as a minister, share with us your experience of being a minister of state of Artsakh, Nagorno Karabagh, when the Armenians when Azerbaijan invaded Artsakh back in 2020, knowing that the world was shut down because of COVID-19, and Azerbaijan and the president Alevi took that decision then to invade your sovereign nation. Share with us how the government responded at the time, and what was the sense amongst the cabinet about what was actually happening, because Azerbaijan took a third of your land and your territory.
Actually, Aliyev, who is one of the leading, let's say, dictators of the world, and Azerbaijan is one of the most corrupt and violent countries based on international human rights indexes by Freedom House, by Human Rights Watch, etc. They took the chance of COVID-19, that the world is busy and isolated fully, and attacked our people. And the response was just the government's and the people's response, and worldwide nations, Armenian nations' response was very reactive and defending that we need to protect our land and our rights, our safety. We did our best, though we had for sure failures, we had for sure domestic problems, etc. But we had, at least I had, I had the goal or the wish and the hope that the civilized world, and especially the Christian world, who are speaking about human rights so loudly, will protect us. Maybe that's also our problem, that we relied on others also, because we are weak, because we are Christian, because Muslim countries and Muslim groups attacked us, including ISIS attacked us. But unfortunately, we lost the war, and the intervention of Russian peacekeepers at least saved the other part of our country, the smaller part, but a part of our country. And 120,000 people remained in Artsakh after that. After this ceasefire, we started to recover our life and our economy, our government system, etc. And people started to believe again that it's possible to live in our land peacefully and in dignified conditions. But unfortunately, it took over 2 years, and after that the blockade started and forced displacement. This is something that by now we are accusing the civilized world, the international community, of inaction, of indifference, that they are speaking about human rights and peace, but they are not doing anything to protect our people. And now we want to return, but again with support of all of those who believe in those values, in peace, in human rights, rights of people as a whole, collective rights, individual rights, etc.
Artak, it must have been absolutely horrific for you and the Armenian community in Artsakh, Nagorno Karabagh on September the 18th, 2023, when Azerbaijani forces, together you mentioned ISIS and others, invaded your ancient homeland and forced 150,000 of your people into exile into mainland Armenia. Just describe for us really the horror of that day, but also the acts of genocide that were committed by Azeri forces, and how how your people experienced your own October the 7th on that evil day?
Actually, it was not a surprise that Azerbaijan attacked in September of 2023 because they were preparing for that during the blockade. And when they stopped in June all kind of humanitarian supplies, and we saw that nobody intervenes. There are some UN Security Council emergency meetings, etc., International Court of Justice rulings, but Azerbaijan and Aliyev don't care about those international rulings, statements, urges, whatever it is. And the horror was that they were just immediately attacking everywhere, including civilian population and civilian objects. And in parallel with that, they cut off all kind of communications and vital infrastructure. I mean, we didn't have any phone, we didn't have any internet, didn't have electricity, didn't have gas. We had serious shortage of food. People were starving already. And in addition to that, they started an aggression. And that aggression was horrible also given the previous example. People knew that in 2020 what they did, including beheadings, I don't know, terror, torture, whatever it is, and people were waiting that their time is coming. And the Azerbaijani propaganda machine before that also stated for many times that everyone, whoever fought against Azerbaijan since 1990s will be punished, will be persecuted, which means that at all families, at least 1-2 person would be prosecuted, would be killed, tortured. And this psychological terror was very horrible for our people. And then they had military achievements, and they killed civilian population also in different places, mostly with shelling of artillery and rocket strikes. And I was just, as human rights defender already, independent human rights defender, I was running from hospital to another hospital, from, I don't know, to a building to another building to understand what's happening in order to record and document the situation. Yeah. My kids, I have 2 daughters, were very afraid of the situation. They were in the basement, and I left them with my wife, and just I ran to hospital to understand how to help the people. But again, we had that hope that sooner or later it will stop. But when it stopped, Azerbaijan stated that in Artsakh, there is no longer any Artsakh government. The government surrendered, and they said that we are entering all the places, and we are having our power in all places of Nagorno Karabagh.
And Artak, we've got less than 5 minutes, Artak, so there's 2 aspects that I want to bring in before that. Firstly, the plight of the hostages, because your former colleagues in the government in Artsakh were then transferred as hostages, not prisoners of war, because then they're not allowed to see the Red Cross, and Azerbaijan doesn't apply to the Geneva Convention. So what conditions are they being held in Baku, and how you want your people, them to return to their families and to their loved ones? And also, are you alarmed at the silence of the international community? And instead of what we're seeing with Azerbaijan is this sports washing. So they've been able to host the F1 Grand Prix. They've been able to host the European Football Championships in their stadium in Baku. They've hosted athletics tournaments, and of course the UN's own environmental COP 27. So just share with us the plight of the hostages and also the international community failing to sanction Azerbaijan for committing acts of genocide and war crimes against your people.
Actually, we have at least 23 confirmed hostages in Azerbaijan under sham trial, including former leaders, former presidents and other officials, and my colleagues and friends in Azerbaijan. And we want to release them because they are under serious danger and we don't have any serious access to them. And they don't have access to even priests, to religious people, etc. And we want to release them because they are being persecuted, prosecuted there for being Armenian and for being political leaders and human rights leaders. And we expect from the world to push and put pressure over Aliyev in order to release our people. Besides, we want to return to our homeland, and there are international rulings for that. We don't have any access to our churches. We have over 400 churches, historic and modern churches in Artsakh. 400. And the Azerbaijani forces have destroyed already several of churches, and the others have been vandalized. And we don't have any access to our graves, to our cemeteries.
Yep. So within 20 seconds, how can our viewers respond to the call of help for Armenia and the Armenian people at this time?
We expect pressure over Aliyev, and we expect investigation and justice internationally. And we expect certain support in order to return our people. But very shortly, we expect pressure in order to release the hostages and protect our religious and cultural sacred places and our property.
So Artak, we just want to thank you so much for joining us on today's Politics Today. Just let you know that we love you and we're praying for you and your community, and we're standing with the people of Armenia. Please do pray for the Christian nation of Armenia as they're in peril. They need our help, but also they need political action and support. So please support Armenia. Thank you for watching Politics Today.
Thank you.